Hey there, Deep Thinkers. This is Lori Marie with Deep Thynkers Society. I have Verlaine Crawford here with us today. She's the author of Power of Wholeness. How are you doing today, Verlaine?
I feel great. Thank you. And I'm so glad to be here with you.
I am so glad you're here. Your energy is just beautiful and vibrant, and I'm just really looking forward to you sharing with us your book, Power of Wholeness.
Well, I'm very happy to. The Power of Wholeness evolved out of a book, my very first book, which called Ending the Battle Within. And I had had an accident where I had fallen down some steps at a movie theater after having an amazing experience of being in England and working on a movie called The Green Stone. And it was like this, I was going to make it into a movie. And so I'm at a movie theater. The theater went dark. Was going down the steps to help my mom, and I start to go, and I fell forward, and I broke my rib and cracked my spine, and it was not fun. And oh yes, and twisted my foot enough to kind of break it. It was like pulled apart the tendons. All right, not good. So obviously, it was to stop me.
Literally in your
And
track.
yes, boom, you're on the bed. And then I didn't actually crack my spine at that moment. It was 2 weeks later when I thought I had to go to uh, event where they were doing movie information. And I tried to walk around with crutches, and then I got into a wheelchair. And I thought I should be well, after 2 weeks. So I'm waiting outside on the curb for the car to come and pick me up, the person that had brought me, and I fell backwards and cracked my spine. So the doctor said, "You're not going anywhere. You are to stay flat in bed. Otherwise, I'm
Oh,
going to put you in traction." Okay. So I'm there. It's a long, long story of all the other aspects of it. But what the key thing is, I saw this TV movie where this woman had multiple personalities. Okay. It wasn't the really ugly one where the person was really crazy. It was more like, part of it was an artist, part of it was a different, different things. And I thought, I think that's me. And so I started writing up the 12 different aspects of my subpersonalities. So, the healer, the educator, the uh, politician, the traveler, and it was all in this wheel. And then started looking at all of it. And, ah, excuse me, that was why I started writing the book. But before that, now I've had three different major accidents, and the second accident that I had before the fall, well, it wasn't an accident. I went down after work to get my car in a parking garage, and a guard passed me, came in. There was a little room, two doors, two elevators, and I'm going out, and the voice in my head, everybody that's watching, intuition, inner knowing, you listen because it
yeah,
can save your life. Okay,
100%.
I didn't listen. I argued. Right, this voice in my head, when I looked in his eyes as we passed, it said, "Run." That's clear enough, right?
I mean, you're getting me panicky listening.
And argued. I don't want to run. Why should I run? It's late. I don't feel like running. It's silly to run. And before I could get to the door, he's had his arm around my neck and a knife at my throat. And he started pushing me toward the other door. And I'm trying to get his arm loose because it's strangling me, and without touching the knife. And and I've said the all-time great words. I said, "Calm down. You're hurting me," as if that wasn't his intention, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're standing in front of the second elevator, and it went ding. The doors open. Two men start to come out. He transfers the knife to my back and stabs me in the back. And they pull me into the elevator. And they didn't understand at first what was going on. Why is this woman
Right.
with a guy with an arm around her neck? And so anyway, they pulled me in, and my lung collapsed. And I'm falling down into the floor. And it was really interesting at that moment. What came into my head was, God, if I live, let me be an instrument of your peace. And I had never heard that before. And so thus began a whole experience. They got me upstairs. The police came asking what happened. Obviously, the guy got away. Went to the hospital, spent a week there. And then I went back to work finally after about 2 or 3 weeks to the ad agency that I worked in on Wilshire Boulevard. I was chief copywriter, and it was a wonderful job. And I, you know, was trying to hide with a black wig and never parked in the parking garage. And then the police came in. This happened in August of 1971. And the police came in and said, in March, and said, bomb threat, and everybody out of the building. And I said, really? Where's the bomb threat? Is it 15th floor, which was our floor? I mean, it's hard to believe that that long ago, those kinds of things were going on,
Yeah.
because if we think of it, things are going on like that now, but it was then. So anyway, I went home to John and I said, I have to leave. I have to leave Los Angeles. I'm going to go back home to Carmel. And I hope you come with me. And he did. All right. 3 years later, after seeing a psychologist for during that time, and then also trying to, never mind about the building and the judge and all of that, and I hear about a workshop, and it was a neurolinguistics workshop.
Interesting, because that popped up today in mine, and I never heard of it before, and it popped up today. So I would like
Oh
to
my
hear about
God. Neurolinguistics is fabulous. I mean, there's so much. It's about the programming that we have that creates our habits, that creates our way of being. Uh, it's like somebody who reads slow, for instance. If they work with them and find out, okay, how do you read that word? And he said, well, I sound out the word, I picture the word. So, well, of course, it's slow because you've got this pathway neurolinguistically that is creating a
that.
problem. So, on the second day in the morning, because we had 3 day workshop, and it was very new at the time, and they were from the University of California in Santa Barbara, these young men who had come up with it. And so he said, I'm going to do an integration, and he volunteers, and I'm like, right. And he chose me to come up, and I did the integration on the stabbing, and it was miraculous. And the idea being that what you do is you believe you have these different subpersonalities within us. That's what I call them, different parts of us. And these subpersonalities, I see it like a big house or a mansion inside of us. Each one has their own room, right? And they put up pictures on the wall that are having to do with their beliefs, sort of like doing a planning chart or something, and sayings and all the things that they've learned over the years for each different belief that you have gathered from the programming of your family and your school, your education, the whole big education, whatever it is, your media for certain, you develop these beliefs.
So it's a sort of a map that you're creating.
Yeah, and each one has their own a belief. They're holding on to it. They guard it. They make sure that they try to prove it to you over and over again so that you see the information that verifies it. And that's what we have inside of us. Now, it's interesting. You hear so many people that are coaches and trainers and so forth talking about, well, you have to clear your beliefs, but they don't say how. Okay.
Right.
I got the how. And that's why I want to, as soon as I get my life right at this moment, I have a sick husband. And when that resolves, hopefully that he gets better, um, I want to do more workshops for people who are doing coaching and
And
work
teach
with
them the
individuals
integration
so
process.
they can learn this technique, which is so easy and wonderful that it works. That's the amazing thing. So with this particular event, with the stabbing, he said, "Okay, separate your two hands, and we're going to put the part of you that didn't want the stabbing, wanted to be healthy and fine and keep on with your job, and then the part of you that had saw some sort of advantage for having this happen." And of course, you're looking at an advantage. Are you kidding? What could be the advantage? And that's the key, because we never look at that way. We say it was hurting us. It's destroyed our life. It put us back in time. It made us make changes we didn't want to do, and blah blah blah. All the negative. But what was it doing for you? What was it doing for you is the key. And so, well, the idea of what the advantages of not having it happen, I just stayed healthy. I didn't have this trauma drama. I didn't have to move. I didn't have to, all of the turmoil that took place. And John had just gotten a job in San Francisco, and he left San Francisco, gave that up, and came back, and so forth, which, by the way, was one of the advantages of the part of me that created it.
So it sounds like what's happening is that, and this is what your book is about, Power of Wholeness, is the integration process. It sounds like what's happening is that you're finding a pathway of changing your perspective.
Your response is yes, but actually getting to the core of what keeps that moving. Why don't we lose the weight in our health, right? Why don't we lose the weight? There's an advantage of not.
But it was always there. We just couldn't see it, right? It was always there, but we just couldn't see it. So,
Right. Well, yeah, because it becomes automatic. It becomes
right.
automatic that whatever habit that you develop out of it. A really simple story, which was so precious, about how incredible the body and mind is. One of the things I have in my book, there's a little girl. She was about 7 or 8, and Monica was her name. And we went over to visit my friends, and she was her daughter, and she had warts all over her hands. Okay. And so they were thinking, oh, we got to go to the doctor, find out what's going on, da, 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 right? And so I said, well, Monica, let's play a little game, and we'll just see what that happens, right? So put the one that doesn't want the warts on one hand, and the one that created the warts on the other hand. And why would you want? What is the advantage of not having the warts? Well, I can do anything I want. They're in the way. Da da da. Okay. What are the advantages of having the warts? I don't know.
Of course.
That's what we
Yeah.
all say, right?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. So I said, well, did something happen that maybe had something to do with it? Oh, well, I fell off the handlebars the other day and hurt myself. Oh, so you can't go on the handlebars with the warts on your hands. She says, right. Can you imagine that this is what the body, this little girl doesn't know anything about warts, but the body comes up with that as a response
Yep.
to keep her off the handlebars. And so I said, what if you could play on the handlebars and you didn't fall off? Would you be willing to change your behavior and let that Monica not have the warts anymore? Because you talk to that part directly,
Right.
yeah, and the part that is the other part, and it goes, well, I guess so. And so, okay, we'd like you to go. This is part of the process that you do with every single event. After they've agreed that that would be okay, or maybe is even all right, that you have them go to the creative part of your being to come up with 3 ways in which Mona can play on the handlebars without hurting herself, and she doesn't have to have the warts anymore. You don't have to know what those 3 ways are in consciousness at this time. So you just see yourself acting differently and healing the warts. Now, after we do that, we say we'd like all parts of you to check those 3 ways and make sure it's a win-win situation. Now, I'd like you to hold the 2 hands up, and bring them together. Intertwine the fingers, bring them to your heart, and see all parts of you forming a huddle around those two, sending love and healing. And your higher self, that is the real person that you are, sending love and healing down to all parts of your being, and these two in the center. And see them walking hand in hand, going up a hillside, sitting on a bench and talking to each other, and seeing how they're going to work together, that you're going to have more strength, you're going to be more aware, and you're going to be able to play very well on the handlebars or any other instrument that you work with or any other place that you're exercising. And we thank these two for sharing in consciousness. Thank you. In 2 days, they fell off.
So here's where I'm coming from with what I was asking you about perspective, because anytime we rewire our brain or change its direction, we're changing our perspective. And then the path you take at the end, where you pray and you go through like a guided meditation, so to speak, while you're guiding the person through it, you're also envisioning it, right? You're
You're
seeing
also
it too.
what?
You yourself, the healer or the person guiding it, is also envisioning it while they're walking through. And what I've learned, because I've been studying shamanism for quite a while now, that the basis of shamanism is that we, the person, like watching the experience, when we visualize it, we're actually the ones that are changing it for what's happening outside of us. So it sounds like what's happening is that you're getting, the healer, which would be you in this case, is getting to know the person by asking all the right questions, finding out the different personalities so that you could see all the different perspectives of this person in their life. And because you're looking from the outside in, then they can't see all these perspectives. And then you're able to help them bring these perspectives together. All while you're doing this, you're the one envisioning the process and you're the one taking it through to another place. It's almost as if you don't really even need the other person there, as long as you know those little bit of details that you could process it and heal. And that is what shamanism is. So with all these gifts that you have, and I know this is what your book is about, but with all these gifts that you have, and I've heard some of your other stories, it sounds like the basis of it is that we are doing the work inside and it's changing the work outside.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I also think from what people respond is that they see it too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They're
exactly. Yeah.
visualizing it. But you're
Yes.
right in that, first of all, in order to do it, in order to be a participant or a person leading this, I think it is terribly important that you're fascinated by it, like I am. I am fascinated by all the different beliefs that people have, and it's certainly it's what runs the world. It's what runs our lives. Because if we've got a belief that's stopping us, that's why when you make a list of the things you want in your health, your wealth, your love, your self-expression, I call them the four cornerstones of life. If any one of them is missing, there's a tilt, right? So your health, you've got to have. Your wealth is your medium of exchange, which does not necessarily have to be money, but it can be money. And your love, which is all your relationships, any kind of relationship you have. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one, but it can be. And your self-expression, how you express yourself in the arts, in your writing, in your speaking. Those are so important. You think about it, there are people that are very wealthy, they have good health, and they may even have love in their life, but they're going, well, something's missing. And it's that self-expression, that personal self-expression of themselves, which they may be doing through their business. They may be doing it through, as a doctor or some kind of professional, they're doing it. But there's another aspect of it where you're letting that creative expression.
Yeah, because self expression, in order to freely and openly self express ourselves, we have to be in touch with our authentic self. And our authentic self hides behind things sometimes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, so once we can get in touch with our passion, which is where our authentic self is hidden, and not worry about, outside influences or even our own inner inside influences that we've been conditioned to have, once we reach that authentic self, we can channel that natural, passion and energy to express, like you're saying. But until then, you will hear people say things like, well, I've always been this way, or I'm more of a math, or I'm more logical, or, I can't draw, I'm not the creative type. But they love to sing, but they can't sing. And it's like, but you haven't, your hidden, your authentic self is hidden behind the things that you
yeah.
know.
And as my guides have said many, many times, that creativity, whatever it is you choose to do, from pots to dancing to singing to whatever, it doesn't have to be with your hands. That's when you're allowing spirit to come in and heal you.
Like,
That is such a major way to, enlighten yourself and be and create a new being. So it's fascinating. And so I definitely recommend I go through the book with each of the areas of our life. I talk about intuition, and there's a lot of information there that I think can be really helpful. The one thing we
that
haven't talked about is past lives, and uh, and that I think is helpful for people as well, to have an idea that this isn't the only life. Not that you're going to waste this one, but that you have access to the energy of many lifetimes. And it would something that's very hard to understand is the idea that they are all simultaneous. So the way I see that is you've got a film projector, and it's going out here, and there are several film projectors, and they're all on the same screen, and you have all the channels like on a television, that who you've been in all these different lives, so you have access to that energy, you have
Yep.
access to that creativity and the intelligence and so forth, far more than you ever thought you did.
And then also too, when you look at that and you know that, maybe you've had a regression, or maybe you had an instinct that maybe it was something that happened in your past life, also, and it was maybe a wound, and maybe in this life, you brought something over that maybe is connected to that at the same rate. If you heal something in the now, you heal it in the past. Or if you have trouble connecting to it in the present, if you go to the past and heal it there, it's like whatever timeline you heal it on, you heal all of them.
That's right. That's right.
It's amazing. It's so amazing. And so the work that you're doing, especially with this integration process, is also like a technique that, like, when you perform it on somebody, it's a technique that they themselves could carry over to for themselves, like if they found something else that they needed to work through.
Every yeah, I use it for so many things. I've used it all my life to break through whatever is standing there, inside me, that's out there. That brings up another thing that I also talk about in the book, is that every person that shows up outside of you is a part of you. And I don't mean just a little bit, I mean they're a part of you that have shown up to show you or say to you what you're saying to yourself and didn't want to listen. And so if you go out and people say, oh, you look great today, thank yourself for that, because you are allowing that part of you to express outside of you. And then if somebody else says, what happened to you? Why do you look the way you do? You look exhausted. Yeah,
You
there's
needed
a
to hear
part of me
that.
that knows I'm exhausted, and so it's very difficult to accept it, because we want to blame other people. We want to say they're the cause of my problem. But the truth is, they are the mirror
Reflect.
of the
Yeah, the
problem.
reflection, exactly. That's so, I'd love to talk about this a little bit, and here's why. So, like, sometimes when we look at the people that are in our perspective, and our awareness, and you know that they're there because they're matching your energy for one reason or another. It could be like what you just said, for us to reflect and learn something about ourselves. And there are, especially me, because I'm super self-reflective. I maybe over reflect on myself, and I look at things, that patterns that happen in my life, and I wonder, but why is this person who is like this, and it's so not me, why is this person still in my realm? Why they still, why is, and is it because maybe I just haven't let it go, and that maybe, what I'm saying? So sometimes it's really hard to teach this, as somebody, I like to teach from what I learned, but it's hard for me to teach this one because I don't have an answer other than, maybe there's just something you're missing, because
Let's look for a second. What is what the person is doing or saying? What are you learning, or is the advantage of that?
so the pattern that comes with it, meaning there's other people that have that trait that have been in my life over time, criticism, like hyper criticism, and not even conscious. It just is who they are. The criticism part, it's just natural. It's and then it causes you to, feel the need to walk on eggshells, right? But I'm that person to myself at times, because I don't want to be criticized by the pattern. And I'm not saying anymore. I'm saying this is what I've learned in time. But in the past, those people tend to have you want to walk on eggshells, because
Okay,
that somewhere they're gonna.
look at exactly one. I'm sure there's many things, but one thing in particular that they say to criticize that is particularly hurtful, and they say that to you. Well, pick it.
Or just a response. So, like, anytime something is passionate or exciting and it's shared, that person always finds the negative in it.
Ah, dear. Okay. Well, what I would say is, see, again, that's what I look at very closely is what exactly is it, and that's perfect because there's a part of you that says you have to be practical. You have to be practical at some point. My mother used to say it to me all the time because obviously I didn't act like I was practical because I was, but psychic or something, and I didn't even
Yeah.
realize what was going on. So she said, "You got to be practical. You got to be prepare." So this character keeps telling you the downside of what's exciting. So that's the practical. Thank you so much. No, it's
You're
yeah,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So and I think we come to a point where we just don't need that anymore. And you say thank you for sharing, but your particular way of being is just so not helpful for me. You know.
Yeah. I see it weaning away a little bit. But right now, I have a 12-year-old who has that personality trait. So
Wow.
I, and then, a teenager. And teenagers are that way naturally, because they're going and learning. And so I'm like, well, I know that my daughter learns from my example. But my daughter also does have some special needs. So, like, she has some challenges. Nothing major, but she does, tend to rebel. And so I'm like, well, it's interesting that, I've healed past it in some older relationships that are gone and moved on. And yet now I'm raising a child who is one of their main traits is
Yeah,
to,
I think you need to work with her to help her to see that that isn't a helpful thing to do for
yeah.
people. She thinks she's being helpful. She's not.
Well, she just chooses the negative side of things.
Yeah, but isn't it fascinating? I mean, here are these things that you've studied so much and worked through so many things, and here you have it glaring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. But she let me just look for a minute. Yeah. It looks like it was a past not life connection between you two, and it was like, oh God, you know, there were these times that they just really, it was a back and forth kind of thing. So yeah, I think you can clear it and help her with it as soon, sooner the better.
Always, I've always, and she said something the other day. She said, when you tell me to do it, and I was already on my way to do it, that made me not want to do it. And I was like, but that's my job, you know?
You say, well, I understand that. There's a tendency to do that with all of us, you know.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. I guess my main question to you is, and thank you for that because it was very helpful, is that when, we work with people who ask, well, I don't understand why. What would be a way of trying to figure out what is reflecting back at you? I've gotten much, much better at it because I'm so reflective, but every once in a while there's that pattern or that trait that you're like, should they just be like, once you recognize it and you realize that you don't want that in your life, do you need to learn to just create boundaries? Is that what it is?
What happens is once you do the integration, and in this case, it would be the integration of criticism, critique, that there's a part of you that thinks the way to keep you grounded is to give you criticism and critique what you're doing and bring the really practical part of it together. And here's the part of you that says, look, I want to get excited. It's fun. I like the feeling, and, I see your advantages. You want me to be practical and be ready for emergencies and so forth. But what if we could be ready for emergencies and you didn't have to be critical? We could just, work together, and you would make me aware of it, through my intuition and so forth. But I don't have to hear all these critical words and negative words. And they says, well, you think that's possible? Yes, I think it's possible. And then you send it to the creative part of you to come up with ways to change it. That's the key. Because what happens when it goes into the mind and you're going up there, and this, I don't think I mentioned that it's a beautiful room filled with golden light and computers that have the answers for everything. And angels are there, and it's like they're going to find three ways that that can happen. That the criticism and the excitement can be put together so that you have your full power. It's not one part pushing you down, the other one trying to lift up and back and forth. It's coming together. And so you're asking for three ways that can happen, and you don't have to know what they are. And then you bring them together. And often it takes a long time for people to bring the two together because they really don't like each other. Yeah, you're too excited. No, you're too upsetting and negative, And so they come together and then do the rest of the process.
It's like bringing the light and dark and having them balance. It's a yin and yang, having them balance so that they work together.
Exactly. It's like our country is so divided, about, one part that we think we've got a cut. Parts of us think we have a communist thing there, and we're going to have a dictatorship with Kamala, and then they got the very same story over on the other side. No, it's going to be a dictatorship with Trump. It's like, come on, guys, and then it's like, well, what's the advantages of your way of doing it and your way, and then what if we could come together? If we could talk about unity, this country to be unified is the most important part of its existence. It's the unification of the country, in a perfect union.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I'd love to do it with Kamala and Trump.
But yeah, that would be so interesting.
There were Trump alone and Kamala alone because, and all the other people that are just so hateful about Trump and hateful about Kamala, it's like, give us a break. There has to be a way to do some of the things that you want to do that are social activities, and there's ways that we can do business. Then we can have it all one. Anyway, that's the thing on a larger scale, and of course, then you have Russia and the Ukraine and all the other things that are going on that are all about beliefs. I have the best solution. No, I have the best solution. And so, what do they end up with their hands clubs to beat each other up.
Aside from your integration technique that you have in Power of Wholeness, which I'm definitely going to be reading that book, is you were talking about, well, previous to this show, you were talking about some of your experiences you had, and you mentioned how you had a guide take you in meditation, out of body, and you began to remote travel where you show up in other locations, and then, you had somebody witness it and confirm it for you. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I find it really fascinating that I don't think a lot of people understand really what remote viewing is, let alone, out of body traveling as opposed to astral traveling. I think there's a difference
Well,
because
I
in this
think no, this was astral traveling. That is the astral body that is going to these different locations and then
But
getting
somebody saw you. So if somebody saw you, is that your astral body?
yes,
Interesting.
yeah, because
Good.
it looks like a ghost. I looked like a ghost to
Oh,
him. Okay, and
okay.
that's why he thought maybe I died because here I am sitting as a ghost next to him.
Go ahead and share the story. It was really amazing.
Okay, well, I was in Hong Kong. I was doing channeling for people there for a week, and it was an amazing experience to be with a variety of different kinds of people. And so I was resting in my hotel room, and I had a feeling uh, to look in on my partner John, and who we have actually been together now uh, 55 years.
That's
55
amazing.
years,
That's amazing.
and the love never ends. It's just really, really fortunate. So I thought I'd look on him, and I knew that he was in Europe, that he was working on a project over there. And so I thought, well, I really hadn't done this before, but I thought I'll go over to Europe. Now, he happens to be very metaphysical also. So he says, had mentioned one time where you can look for the light, or you look for the energy, or whatever. And so I go over to Europe. I'm looking around. I go to Germany and France. I mean, I'm not going there. I'm just above it, like you're in an airplane and looking down and trying to feel and sense light or a vibration of John. And it just felt like nothing. And so I said, okay, I'll go over to England. So I crossed the channel, and I'm hovering over London because I know he had a friend in London. And I look down and I feel a vibration. I kind of see a light, and it's in a taxi that is going into Hyde Park. And Hyde Park's a giant park, like the park in New York. And so he's going in, and so I start coming down. I look in the window, and there's John. And I get in the car and sit next to him. And it was just nice. I could, feel that he was fine and everything was good. And then I just said, okay, I'll go back to my body, and I'm back in Hong Kong. It's interesting. There's no time. When I say no time, no space, you're there. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And so I'm just resting and go back to sleep. So from Hong Kong, I went to Japan again, and then it was about 3 weeks later or I don't know exactly, a month later, but I get a phone call from John, and this was before cell phones, and this was in 1994, I think. And he calls me up and says, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Well, I was in a taxi in Hyde Park, and I see you sitting next to me, and you look like a ghost. And I was afraid you died, or really sick or something. I didn't know what was
Oh,
wrong. And so there he had seen me.
that's
And
so interesting that it happened, that he said it that distance of time later. And you're like, well, that happened a couple of weeks ago. So you're right. No time, like time and space is an illusion. So he just experienced it when he experienced it, and you
yeah,
experienced it
right
when
when it happened. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
Wow.
I go, oh my God, you saw me. I was there.
That's
So it's,
fascinating.
yeah. So it's just be aware for any people that are watching that we're much more capable of experiencing things beyond the norm and not to be so afraid. Oh, that's a very important thing. First of all, you're connected. You're always connected to the body by, they say, a silver cord. And so you can immediately just go back. And the second thing was, if you leave your body and you should happen to run into some people that are also out of body, or if you feel like you're doing channeling and the energy starts to come in from another entity, first of all, you ask, are they of the light? And you want them to be of the, positive energy. You want to feel good about it and make it sure that that energy feels loving. The second of all is, there's nobody in body or out of body that's stronger than you are. Okay? There's nobody stronger than you are. And you have your guides, you have at least one guardian angel that is with you 24/7. It doesn't mean they're standing around twiddling their thumbs, but it's like instantaneous. The same way I said I went right back to London. It's instantaneous if you're in any kind of trouble, and they're the ones that bring you the information or give you the information for opportunities. And so be very aware of signs, signals, and then you'll see confirmation. And the way to create in your reality is something that John actually received from his guides, which is to see it, feel it, be it, sense the source, magic fulfillment. And I like to use an example of something that I manifested. I wanted to experience being on a super yacht. Okay. So I saw the
I
yacht.
do too.
It was really big and gorgeous, floating on the water, and this beautiful blue. The coloring was reflected on the white, this blue from the water, and then it had peach and green decor. This is what I was imagining in my mind. Okay, and then you see it, then you feel it. You really feel like what it's like to be there. You walk around on it, you look at it, watch videos about super yachts to see what they look like and get a real feeling for feeling it. And then you be it. You become the yacht.
Yes.
You are the yacht. You're out there. You're floating. You're looking around. You are that incredible yacht. And all of the beautiful customized wood and everything that it has. So you see it, feel it, be it. You sense the source, the energy of creation that made that yacht, that makes everything, the source, energy, magic, fulfillment. And so thus, I ended up on a beautiful yacht in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. AT&T was rewarding people that had given them, had been doing consulting for them. And so there I was,
Wow. So
dancing on the yacht,
I really feel like I need to spend more time in that realm of
manifesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, in so many different reasons, and ways that it's we get so earthbound and so like caught in the rat race and life. And my goal has been really to work on flowing, like you and I had talked about before, and allowing life outside of me to show me the way. And listening to you now, kind of makes me want to make time for that inner world where we can go create. I'm going to listen again. I'm going to write down those little steps you said, and use them, because our minds are magical. And you just, like you said, there's so many things that we could do, and we are limitless and we are multidimensional. And just knowing you are those two things, and feeling it and being it, and embracing it and the source of it, you become it. And so I guess the last thing I'd want to maybe talk with you about, and maybe share with the audience listening, is remote viewing, the tool of remote viewing. Maybe because I feel like some people are a little scared of leaving their body. They are a little scared of the astral piece, because it seems when we use our ego and our like 3D mind, it's very literal. You're leaving your body, which for some people they may relate to like death, and so
Yeah,
that is fearful. So remote viewing could be an alternative where you're using your mind in the same way, but maybe not leaving your body.
absolutely. You're just changing. You're looking with your consciousness. You are conscious of another place, and you go there in consciousness. You know, I went shopping in Paris that way. The problem is you can't bring anything home, but you can't do it with an astral body either. You know, it's like you're just shopping away. But the the understanding of the fact that our consciousness is so incredible. When we say we're going to increase our consciousness, the way I like to explain that is wherever, whoever's watching this right now, wherever you are, just concentrate on one thing in front of you. I don't know if you're sitting at a table or you're on a chair and you see a little table there in front of you or something. Okay, you're focusing on that. That's your consciousness at that moment. Then you open your consciousness a little more, and oh, there's a whole room here. Okay, and now there's a window and there's an outside. And so you start to expand what you can see, what you can feel. And please, I beg of you, put your phone down.
Oh yeah.
Quit. I'm not talking to you directly because I know you don't do it all the time. But so many people, that's all they do. You're missing. I heard some people talking. They said, I went for a silent walk. And I'm going, a silent walk? What's that? A silent walk was not using your phone, not having your phone there or not having earplugs in or what. For goodness sakes, when you go out of that house, yes, you can have it in your pocket unless God calls you, but walk and see. Expand your consciousness for the trees, the clouds, take pictures. That's what I do. I love it, and I be in nature whenever you can. So anyway,
Absolutely.
that's
I've been
expanding
done.
your consciousness.
Yeah. Nature is my it's the place I crave the most. I try to you go as much as I can, and I really learned over the last few years, like every time I've felt the need to grow and learn, I always found myself, gravitating toward a place of nature. And even when I was younger and I didn't know I was doing it, I would go on a long drive and the drive would put me in the zone, but I would end up at, Half Moon Bay or at the lake that I grew up as a kid, and I would float on the water and my worries would float away. And if I couldn't get there physically, I would do what you said and I would mentally take myself there. Um,
Please, yes, take yourself there to have a safe place that you go to that you felt good. And also, I'd like to do a quick meditation that
yes,
is just a one that you can use any place, anytime, even in a meeting.
sure.
Okay, okay, that energy is that, as I mentioned, that above your, I think it was the other day, that the energy is above your head is the spiritual energy. And that energy, just like air that you breathe, is always moving through your body. But if you take a moment and imagine that that's a golden white cloud going around and around like a tornado, okay, but not violent, and it's going around with a point going into your head, and the outer part of the cloud is going around and around. So it's going in through your head and it's clearing. It's clearing the top of your head, the chakras that are coming in your head, the pineal gland, the third eye, and down into your mouth or your throat and around the side of your body at the same time. It's clearing all the way down and around, down through your heart, your solar plexus, down through the sexual chakra, and down through the base of the spine, all the way down into the earth. And imagine that it goes down into the earth to the center of the earth, and it has a grounding cord that is wrapping around the center of the earth, which will then ground you and allow you to feel one with the earth and allow then the energy of the earth to move up through your feet. It's going the opposite direction, around and around, back up through your torso, your neck, your head, and out the top of your body. So you're just and grounding, clearing and grounding. And that energy, I have done it in a meeting where everybody is driving you nuts, and I just sit there and I don't close my eyes. I just sit there and I imagine the things going around clearing. It's clearing my energy field. So I'm not feeling upset. I'm not feeling anger. I can let it go. The other thing, if by chance you were in a dangerous situation and somebody's coming at you or something that is dangerous, you can imagine that you're cutting their grounding cord. It dis it makes them ungrounded, and they act like they don't know where they're disoriented, and it gives you time to get away. Okay, so
You keep touching at things the whole time I've been talking to you tonight. You keep touching at things that I've thought about, because earlier I was going to mention to you when we were talking about a few things that when I was young, I would think that I would either need to just let go in an emergency situation, allow it to happen, but send love to the other. I was young to think that. Or I would just let go and allow what needed to happen, and not have fear of death. Because usually when we're in tragic situations, our fear is that we're going to die. And I remember, just embracing the fact that you just let go and it's going to be okay. And so for you to say when you're in an emergency situation, I was like, well, I've already had that thought tonight. And so thank you for sharing that.
that's amazing. We're so connected. Yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, well, I think what it is that we just are both very open source. And when you did that meditation right now, when I brought the light in that went through me into the earth, I saw it intertwined with all the roots of the trees and all the mycelium, and it got me super like emotional because I'm so connected to nature, and it got me a little teary eyed. And then I missed the part where you said it started to come back up because I was so like happy with it,
right. Well, we're just
connecting.
letting good earth energy come back up and out the top of your head. And just it's a flow.
It is.
It's always going around. It's just amazing the aura. It's all the different colors are like a rainbow around us, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So we have so much that we can accomplish. I do have other books that might be interesting to people. I have one called Emotional Healing. I have latest one is a book of poetry that is called Endless Shades of the Mystical Rose, and people are really liking it. It was after a breakup with my ex husband, and that was a kind of in between time because I knew John, and then he went to Europe, and then I'm with got married to this psychologist, actually psychiatrist, who was spiritual, good guy, but that ended. And so this was poetry that I got when I went up to a spiritual room I had created, and it just started flowing through me and healing me. And so I think it's very healing messages for people.
Are you on Amazon? And the reason I ask is because often I get a lot of my books on there, and you can follow the author. So when new books come along or whatnot, are you on there like that? I could
Yes,
follow you.
and it's there. And also, please take a look at my website, Creative Life Adventures. So, as you can tell from what you've heard of my life so far, which was only about maybe 10% of it, Creative Life Adventures has been my life, and I also have one that's called VerlaineCrawford.com. But the Creative Life Adventures is my blog, and there's a lot of more detail of things that I have been talking about. And the book section is there with explanation of the different books. And just to help people understand, healthy eating, exercise, and spiritual work can result in you never growing old or feeling old. Okay. And so I'm going to reveal my age because I'm proud of it. The number of years I've traveled around the sun. In December, it will be 81.
Congratulations. And that's what I was imagining. And you do not look that at all.
I
Like
don't
not
feel it either.
but just from listening to your stories, I was like, she has to be maybe just about 80. You said December what?
9th.
December 9th. Oh, so you are the educator of the zodiac. You're Sagittarius.
Sagittarius with 5 planets in Gemini.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and
Wow,
rising
that's
Gemini.
wonderful.
So yeah,
That's all you're writing. Yeah,
I have
that's
to
wonderful.
communicate.
And you're good at it.
Thank
You're good
you.
at it. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
that. And all of that energy is in my eighth house. So that must be why you touch at that place for me. So I'm gonna put your links in the show notes because I'm sure that people are gonna want to, look more into, what you have available. Thank you so much for, just being here today. And is there any last words or anything you want to share with the
I would
audience?
just like to say that I'd love to come back and do a channeling for you.
Oh yes, that would be beautiful. And
Either
I want to tell everybody, they might not know this, but I actually interviewed you and you will be on Wisdom Beyond Time, which will be released in December, where you get to tell your story and there's no talking and everybody will get to hear some of your really unique Wisdom Beyond Time experiences.
yes, thank you.
But
And
yes,
it's
I
been
would love to have
wonderful.
you on.
It's very wonderful to meet you. And I say blessings to all of you out there, and keep the peace inside yourself all throughout your life, and try as much as possible to just take whatever you hear and just kind of let it flow away from you and come back into your center.
Thank you so much, Verlaine.
Yes, dear.
So at the top of your screen, do you see a number? The top of your